Well, hello everybody, it's Mr. Hughes here. It's that time again where I give you a weekly PowerPoint and I issue you with some work. Sun shining, I'm setting you with some work. Not too bad, eh? So let's go through P3 then. So P3, it's important to know, first, straight off the bat, we're breaking down P3 into three parts. Let's look at it as a whole to begin with. Explain how businesses measure the impact of their marketing using two contrasting businesses. So one of them is going to be large, one of them is going to be local, and you've got to explain the differences. Part one is just explaining how a large business measures the impact of their marketing. Okay, part one. That's what we're doing, just the large business. So explain how a large business measures the impacts of its marketing. Sorry for repeating myself, but I'm just trying to reduce your workload and stop so we don't make any mistakes and so you don't waste any time. So let's look at marketing. Looking at marketing campaigns. So there's some marketing campaigns here. They're all about raising awareness of the brand and convincing customers to purchase. They're like an advert, a social media campaign. They all link together and they're trying to push a new product, a new brand, a new initiative. If we just look over here, this was the Red Bull guy. This was the Red Bull marketing campaign where they were trying to relaunch their brand as when other energy drinks were flooding the market. So they decided to do a campaign where they put a guy up in space and he did a free fall from space back down to the ground. If you haven't seen it, go on YouTube, it'll be there. You've got the Respect initiative in football. That's to do with how football players as role models, as parents on the sidelines of football matches, they weren't showing respect to each other and to the refs. So they came up with a campaign, with a respect campaign. Have a look at that also. The Elton John one I think is linked to Coca-Cola, but I can't remember. It's been a while since I looked at that one. Another example of a marketing campaign was the This Girl Can campaign. And this was all to do with getting women, girls into sport and showing them that they can participate. And it was all about a health drive in terms of women, because they were noticing this gender gap with women exercising and fewer women were exercising than men. So they came up with this campaign. So at your own time, just peruse that. But these are just examples of campaigns that they've run. For example, would be the Thorpe Park 2016. Now, cast your mind back. 2016, Thorpe Park is owned by Merlin Entertainment, which also owns Alton Towers. Alton Towers had the Smiler incident whereby a girl, I believe, and others were injured, but a girl lost her leg on that ride. So the following year, Thorpe Park had to produce a marketing campaign which would get people back into the theme parks and back on those rides. It's quite controversial because they came up with like a Fright Night campaign, which was all about like clowns, full of blood, gore, The Walking Dead. Was that the right campaign that they should have been doing? But if we just look at the screen here, what ways, let's get back to P3, how would they measure the impact of their marketing campaign? So they've used a lot of social media. Just spend 30 seconds thinking about this. How would they know that Fright Night campaign 2016 after the Smiler incident was a success? Because that's our coursework. Think about how they would measure if that was a successful campaign. If you want to pause and write some things down, that's fine. I doubt you will though, but yeah, give it a go. Okay, we look at Thorpe Park in terms of how they would measure the success. Well, there's three headings. Okay, what you've got, and one is cut off. I do apologize. I don't know why that has happened. But the three headings would be sales and trends, income, and I'll just write this down here as well. It would be brand awareness, and that would be things like reputation. It could also be things like market share. It could also be things like image. Okay, so these are the other things that you would measure this. Typo on reputation, sorry. So there's the three things. Alright, so we've got number one, which is there. We've got number two and number three. Those three headings are key for us as we move forward in this coursework. So Thought Park, they'd look at their retweets, they'd look at their likes, they'd look at their views, their subscriptions, people that subscribe to them, ticket sales, reviews, footfall. So sales and trends is all about numbers. Okay, income, just looking at income, that is all about profit. Okay, so income and profit, you could argue that these are similar, but actually if they've spent billions of pounds on putting a guy up in space, then if they get a lot of people drinking Red Bull, even though there's more people drinking Red Bull, because they spent billions on their marketing campaign, they may not have made a high profit. So think about the cost of the marketing campaign versus the amount of sales that they've got. The brand awareness, do they now trust Merlin? Do they trust theme parks? Did Fright Night, with its blood and gore, create the right environment for people to go back into theme parks? So those are the ways in which businesses would measure their advertising campaign. This slide's going to be important for your write-up. Okay. If we move on, the other things to consider is large businesses versus small. You know, if we look at Thorpe Park, it's international visitors, it's more than 100,000 customers, probably on a weekly basis or a few days. The followers, does it have awards and so on? But if we compare that to a local fish and chip shop, it's going to be different. So in terms of measuring, the size of the business is important, and that's particularly relevant for our part one, because we are just doing the large business. Okay, you can also see that I'm getting a little bit confident with some of my tools on my PowerPoint. Sorry for showing off on these, but it's the only thing that sort of keeps my esteem high these days. So in terms of your write-up, again, just remember we are just doing the large business. Is part one of P3, and we're looking at what types of promotions that they use, what advertising have they carried out. You can take screenshots of these, just put them into Google Docs, and remember, don't worry if you think you're doing this wrong. Get something down on paper. I will give you feedback. I'll mark P1, P2, P3. I've marked task 1 in its entirety. You'll get time to improve it. It's just about keeping up and getting stuff down so we're not stressed when we come back. Okay. Like I said earlier on, the previous slide where you've got the three headings, that's going to be useful in terms of how you structure your P3. Right, okay. So let's deal with what you're going to do then. The first thing you've got to do is you've got to choose a large business. Who are you going to choose? It's totally up to you. I don't mind if you choose Merlin, Alton Towers. Try not to use Thorpe Park because I've just used that in my example. Use your own. If you want to do This Girl Can, you can do that. Just look at businesses, look at maybe a favourite business and choose that one. What I would say is make sure that you, because the next one that we're doing in a few weeks' time, M1 I believe it is, we've got to find sales figures, number of tweets, number of followers. So if you choose a business where you know you can find data to analyse their marketing campaign, then that would be really clever at this point. Okay, so choose a big business that you know you can find lots of data on, and just explain their marketing campaign, and then using the three headings, just go through how they would measure it. You're explaining how they could measure it. You're not making a judgment, it's just how they would do it. So what sales and trends would they use? What incomes and profit will they use? Have they used a lot of cost? Their brand awareness. Don't start on business 2, you're just doing business 1, the large business. To help further, I've just got here an example piece of work. So you can see this person used Thorpe Park because I didn't give them the Thorpe Park example last year. Try not to use Thorpe Park, but you can use another theme park. Anybody that comes under the Merlin umbrella. You could even use, well, no, I wouldn't use Creeley, but I'd use large national businesses. So if you read along here, they start painting the scene about how they use social media. They'd measure their success and impact by looking at ticket sales. They'd look at the difference between ticket sales before the marketing campaign and after it was launched. If it had a positive impact, they could see figures increasing. Review websites, TripAdvisor. It's got a however in here. You don't need a however, you're just explaining. And what we're looking for here is about a page and a half with 3 sections. So section 1 would be sales and trends. Section 2, I think, has it got? Or paragraph 2 might be, it's not on here actually. Or you could talk about brand awareness, the likes, the image. You then could talk about the cost of the campaign. So hopefully that gives you an idea as to how this PowerPoint is on learning and teaching, so you could access P3 through that. And obviously feel free to comment via show my homework if you're stuck on anything. Carry on with this in Google Docs. I hope this has been informative. Remember, we're just doing part 1, the large business. Thanks for listening. I know it's a bane listening to me just waffle on, but I haven't got anything better to do. But anyway, stay safe. You would do that write up. There's a bit more there for you to have a look at. I believe